Let me ask you something real. How long have you been wanting the same thing without getting closer to it? You've read the books, watched the videos, made the vision board, told the universe what you want. In this video, you won't just hear another motivational message. You'll discover the 7 identity shifts that silently shape what you attract, whether it's success, peace, love, or wealth. We'll expose the invisible habits that keep you stuck in wanting mode, and teach you how to align with the version of you who already has what you're chasing. No more chasing goals you're not built to hold. This is where you stop wanting and start becoming. But nothing's changing. Why? Because wanting isn't attracting, and desire without alignment is just emotional noise. That version of you, the one who's confident, calm, respected, financially free, they don't just want those results. They match them. And here's the hard truth. Most people aren't attracting what they want because they're not behaving like someone who could actually hold it. They say they want peace, but they live in chaos, checking their phone 50 times before breakfast. They say they want wealth, but they avoid discipline like a disease. They say they want love, but they betray daily through people-pleasing and silence. There's a massive gap between desire and embodiment, and until you close that gap, you'll keep watching the life you want happen to other people. You don't rise to your goals. You fall to the level of your identity, and identity always wins. So what does it mean to match what you want? That instead of just thinking about success, you act like someone who values their time. You get clear. You get structured. You stop explaining and start executing. It means instead of wishing for confidence, you keep the promises you make to yourself. You stop tolerating your own excuses. You build respect by showing up even when no one's watching. It means you stop begging the world for validation and start earning your own. That's the shift. Because let's be honest, most people don't really want to change. They want to feel like they're changing. They want the illusion, not the identity. But here's the secret. If you don't match the energy of what you say you want, you'll either sabotage it when it comes, or it won't come at all. Think of it like a radio signal. Your identity is the frequency. If you're on the wrong frequency, you can scream your desires into the universe all day, and it won't matter. You're not tuned in. So how do you start matching? It begins with this question. If I already had what I want, how would I show up today? How would you walk? How would you treat your time? You speak to others and to yourself. What would you stop tolerating immediately? And if that feels uncomfortable, good. It means you've identified where your current identity is misaligned. Because the version of you that attracts what you want thinks differently, moves differently, trains differently, works differently, decides differently. You don't have to be perfect, but you do have to be intentional. And here's what you'll notice. The moment you stop chasing and start matching, you stop feeling like a fraud. You stop needing permission, and you start becoming magnetic, not because you're louder, but because you're real. You'll begin to notice that things you used to chase start showing up on their own. Opportunities, respect, stability, peace, not because the world changed, but because you did. And that change wasn't about doing more. It was about becoming more. Less performance, more alignment, less noise, more truth. So the question you need to ask yourself now is, am I willing to stop wanting and start matching? Begins to shift. If this hit you in a way you didn't expect, subscribe now. Not because you need another motivational video, but because you're ready to become the kind of person who doesn't wait for change. You embody it. Let's keep going. Here's the uncomfortable truth. You're not stuck because life is unfair. You're stuck because your standards are still too low. You keep saying you want better, but you keep allowing less. And in the world of identity, your life doesn't reflect what you deserve. It reflects what you tolerate. Let that sink in. Every time you say it's fine when it's not. Every time you boundaries. Every time you settle for less just to avoid discomfort. You're telling your mind, this is who I am. And your identity obeys. You cannot build a powerful life on weak standards. Because your standards are your foundation. Not your goals. Not your motivation. Your standards. They define how you show up, what you allow, and what you demand from yourself, even when no one is watching. You want to change your life? Raise the floor, not stop asking for more and start refusing less. The hard part? That means breaking agreements you've made with the weaker version of yourself. The version of you that tolerates half-effort, that scrolls instead of acts, that over-explains, over-apologizes, over-commits, and under-delivers. That version has to go. And here's what no one tells you. Changing your standards won't feel empowering at first. It'll feel like loss. You'll lose fake peace, fake connections, fake comfort. But in that space, real things can grow. Let's get specific. Want discipline? Then stop making room for, I'll do it later. Want respect? Then stop laughing off disrespect just to keep things smooth. Want energy? Then stop giving your mornings to distraction and your nights to overstimulation. Raise your standards, and your behavior will follow. Why? Because once you decide that something is no longer acceptable, your mind, your habits, your identity, they all start catching up. Think of it like a thermostat. Your standards set the temperature. Even if something knocks you off temporarily, your system will self-correct back to the level you've committed to. So if your standards are low, you'll always snap back to average. But if your standards are high, not performatively, but privately, you'll rise. Here's the shift. Don't wait to feel ready to level up. Set the new standard first, then build the identity to support it. Say to yourself, I don't miss workouts. I don't stay where I'm not respected. I don't hit snooze. I hit the ground aligned. I don't let chaos own my mornings. I don't waste energy on what doesn't serve my future. At first, it might feel fake, but that's not imposter syndrome. That's growth. The old you is being challenged, and it should be, because your life will always be built around what you normalize, not what you dream, not what you post, what you tolerate. You attract at the level of your self-respect, and your self-respect is revealed in your standards. Now, here's where most people fall short. They try to raise their standards for others, but not for themselves. They cut off toxic people, but let their own habits slide. They expect others to be clear, but they remain vague. They demand loyalty, but betray their own word daily. That's not integrity, that's image management. True standard elevation starts internally. It means you no longer let your emotions drive your decisions. You no longer allow one bad day to become your identity. You no longer negotiate with weakness when your future is on the line. It's not about being harsh. It's about being honest. Ask yourself, if someone else treated you the way you treat yourself, would you still be in that relationship? If the answer is no, it's time to raise your standards with yourself first. Because once you do, everything changes. Your time becomes sacred. Your words carry weight. Your energy is protected. Your identity becomes stable. You're no longer hoping life upgrades you. You are the upgrade. And yes, some people will fall away when you do this. But let them. Because the ones who can't handle your new standards were never aligned with your future to begin with. The ones who stay, they'll rise with you or meet you later on their own time. But your job isn't to carry anyone. Your job is to become someone worth following, even if it's just by example. So if this moment feels like a quiet breaking point, it's not a breakdown, it's a breakthrough. You're rewriting the contract, and this time it has a clause your old self never agreed to. I will no longer live beneath who I'm capable of becoming. If that hit home, leave a comment and tell me what's one standard you're raising starting today. Let the next step of this video hold you to it. Let's go. You've tried changing your habits. You've set alarms, created routines, downloaded trackers. And yet, you always snap back. Why? Because you're trying to change from the outside in. But real transformation works the other way around. You don't rise by stacking new habits on top of an old identity. You rise by changing who you believe you are and letting your habits catch up. That's why people fail. They try to act like someone different without becoming someone different. They say, I'm going to start waking up early. They still see themselves as someone who sleeps in. They say, I'm going to get organized. But their identity still whispers, I'm the type who always falls behind. And guess what? Identity always wins. It overrides motivation. It outlasts willpower. It silences all your good intentions with one quiet thought. That's not who I am. Until you rewrite that, nothing sticks. So here's the shift. Before you change your behavior, upgrade your self-image. Because you don't build discipline by stacking habits. You build discipline by becoming someone who identifies as disciplined. Think of it like this. If someone offered you a cigarette and you said, "No thanks, I'm trying to quit," you're admitting you still identify as a smoker. But if you said, "No thanks, I'm not a smoker," you've claimed a new identity. That's the difference. Most people live in identity limbo, trying to do new things while clinging to old definitions. They say things like, "I'm just not a morning person. I've always had a short attention span. I've never been consistent. I'm bad with money." They treat those labels like facts, but they're just rehearsed identities. And every time you repeat them, you reinforce a self-image that works against you. So ask yourself this. What identities are you clinging to that no longer serve your future? It could be something subtle like, "I'm a helper," which sounds noble, but really means I abandon myself for others. It could be, "I'm the funny one," which means you never let people see your serious side, even when you need to be taken seriously. It could be, "I'm a survivor," which means you keep choosing hard situations just to prove you can get through them. Let it go, because the version of you that attracts what you want doesn't identify with your old wounds. They operate from a healed perspective. Not perfect, but aligned. So here's the real work. Don't ask, "What habit should I build?" Ask, "Who would I be if I already had the life I want? How would that person talk, walk, respond to criticism, handle a setback, start their day?" Once you get clear on that, start acting like it now. Not waiting, not pretending, becoming. And no, it won't feel natural at first. That's the point. Your comfort zone isn't built for your next level. Your current identity is optimized for your current results. So yes, stepping out of that will feel awkward. But awkward isn't wrong. It's the sign you're shifting into someone new. This isn't fake it till you make it. It's practice it until it becomes true. And here's the beauty. The more you behave like the person you want to become, the faster your brain begins to believe you. Neural pathways don't care about your past. They respond to repetition, to action, to what you do consistently. If you wake up each day and act as if you already are who you want to be, eventually, your identity rewrites itself. You go from, "I'm trying to be productive, I'm a productive person. I'm learning discipline, I am disciplined. I want to be healthy, I'm someone who protects my health. I wish I had confidence, I'm someone who walks with self-respect." Once that shift happens, habits are no longer a fight. They become a reflection. You no longer have to force yourself to meditate, journal, train, or focus. You do those things because that's what someone like you does. Your actions become effortless, not because they're easy, but because they're aligned. And that's when your life starts changing fast. So if you've been trapped in cycles of inconsistency, it's not because you're weak. It's because you're trying to live a new life with an old identity. Stop building around who you've been. Start building around who you're becoming. Identity first. Habits second. Always. Now ask yourself, what label have I been carrying that I'm ready to drop today? And what new identity am I ready to claim? With my actions, not just my words. The next step will show you how to protect that identity from the outside world. Because once you begin this shift, your inputs matter more than ever. Let's go deeper. You've started shifting your identity. You're acting differently, thinking differently, choosing differently. But here's what you need to understand next. Your inputs will either reinforce that shift or destroy it. Because your identity is built by what you do. It's built by what you allow in. If you consume chaos, don't expect to create clarity. If you surround yourself with mediocrity, don't expect to become elite. If you feed your mind with doubt, fear, gossip, distraction, don't be surprised when your confidence starts to fade. This step is about protecting your internal world from everything that weakens it. Because let's be honest, you're not just battling your old habits, You're battling a culture designed to distract you, drain you, and keep you small. And most people lose that battle quietly. They start strong. They make changes. They feel good. Then they get pulled back in. Scrolling through content that makes them feel behind. Listening to people who don't even live by what they preach. Engaging in conversations that drain their energy and confuse their purpose. And little by little, they start to shrink again. That can't be you. You've come too far to let noise rewrite your future. So here's the principle. Guard your inputs like your future depends on it. Because it does. Let's break this down. 1. Mental inputs. What you consume mentally either builds you or builds resistance inside you. Ask yourself, who are you listening to every day? What kind of voices fill your ears before bed? Are you feeding your mind with clarity or confusion? If your daily content is based on drama, negativity, trends, and surface-level noise, don't expect to feel grounded, focused, or resilient. You have to curate what enters your mental space. This doesn't mean living in a bubble. It means living with filters. Not everything deserves access to your mind, especially if it contradicts the identity you're building. Social inputs. Your conversations shape your self-perception. When you surround yourself with people who normalize procrastination, excuses, chaos, and settling, you begin to lower your standards just to stay included. You stop speaking your goals out loud. You water down your ambition. You stay quiet to avoid making others uncomfortable. That's identity suicide. So here's the rule. If they wouldn't fight for your growth, don't let them shape your thinking. You don't need to cut everyone off, but you do need to reassign access. Protect your energy the same way you'd protect a business you just built, because that's what your new identity is. A structure in development, vulnerable to influence, strong when guarded. 3. Digital inputs. The average person consumes more in one day than our ancestors did in a year. But most of it isn't nutrition, it's mental junk food. You check one video and suddenly you're 37 comments deep into a thread that makes you question your worth. You open your feed and within seconds, you feel like you're late, behind, and not enough. That's not awareness. That's erosion. Your digital diet needs to be intentional. Follow people who sharpen you. Mute what weakens you. Turn off what doesn't serve your peace. You don't have time to fight battles that aren't yours. The person you're becoming? They don't consume passively, they choose consciously. The loop of reinforcement. Here's the beautiful part. When you protect your inputs, your new identity gets reinforced daily. You think clearer. You choose faster. You recover quicker. You don't feel like you're starting over every Monday because you've stopped letting your environment reset your progress. That's how momentum builds. That's how consistency sticks. That's how new patterns become permanent. It's not about being perfect. It's about being protective. And that's a form of self-respect most people never learn because they think it's just a video. It's just one text. It's just background noise. But nothing is just when your identity is still forming. Every input counts. Every sound, every sentence, every second of screen time. It all shapes you or chips away at you. Final insight. This isn't about fear. It's about focus. You're not being sensitive. You're being strategic. Because the stronger your filters, the clearer your thoughts. The clearer your thoughts, the bolder your decisions. And the bolder your decisions, the faster you become who you're meant to be. So ask yourself today, what am I consuming that contradicts who I want to become? What do I need to silence to hear myself clearly again? What needs to be removed, not because it's bad, but because it's misaligned? Your peace is not a luxury. It's a tool. Your clarity is not a mood. It's a weapon. And your mind is not a landfill. It's sacred ground. Protect it accordingly. In the next step, we're going to talk about something deeper. The image you carry within yourself. And why, no matter how much you do, you'll never outrun the identity you refuse to heal. Get ready. You can build the habits. You can raise your standards. You can curate your inputs. But if you still believe deep down that you're not enough, you will quietly sabotage. Because no matter how much you do, you will never outperform your self-image. This is the identity route most people avoid. They'll optimize routines, productivity, even strategy. But they won't look in the mirror and ask the real question. Do I actually believe I deserve the life I'm building? The answer is no. You'll keep losing momentum at the exact moment things start working. You'll call it bad luck or timing. But the truth is, your self-image won't let you keep what your actions earned. You'll ghost opportunities, pull away from good people, quit before the breakthrough, not because you don't want it, but because part of you still thinks it's not for you. Let that land. This is deeper than motivation. It's deeper than mindset. It's about worthiness. And here's the lie most people carry: that you have to earn worthiness through suffering, through approval, through constant performance. That if you're not doing everything right, you don't deserve to feel whole, to feel proud, to feel enough. And that lie is the reason so many people stay stuck, even when they're making progress. They say things like, once I get my life together, then I'll feel confident. Once I hit this milestone, then I'll allow myself to relax. Once I prove myself, then I'll stop doubting. But then never comes. Because your identity can't heal from the outside in. You don't earn wholeness. You return to it. And that's the work. Let's be clear. You're not broken. You're not behind. You're not flawed beyond repair. Old software. Messages you absorbed from childhood. Labels that stuck to you during your worst seasons. Interpretations of failure became personal truths. They're not who you are. They're who you got used to being. So here's the shift. Start relating to yourself like someone worth building a life for. Stop speaking to yourself like an enemy. Stop punishing yourself for being human. Stop waiting for perfection to grant you permission to feel proud. Because the version of you that attracts love, wealth, clarity, confidence, they don't act that way because they have those things. They act that way because they see themselves differently. And you can't fake that. You can't fake feeling whole. You can't fake inner stability. You can't fake the energy of someone who knows who they are. That energy either radiates from healing, or it exposes the wound you're still hiding behind productivity. So what does healing the self-image look like? 1. Radical self-honesty. You have to get real about the identities you've built around pain. I'm the one who always gets left behind. I have to be perfect to be safe. If I rest, I'll fall apart. These aren't personality traits. They're defense mechanisms. Acknowledge them. Don't shame them. But don't let them lead anymore. 2. Repairing inner dialogue. If the voice inside your head spoke to your best friend the way it speaks to you, you'd cut that person off and you still let it run your life. You cannot live a powerful life with a voice that constantly discredits you. From this point on, you correct that voice, even when it whispers. You stop saying, "I'm stupid," when you make a mistake. You stop calling yourself lazy, worthless, inconsistent. Because your subconscious is always listening. And it will shape your behavior to prove you right. 3. Acting from wholeness. When you act from a healed self-image, you stop chasing validation, over-explaining your worth, settling for half connection, pleading for opportunities. You don't need, you offer. You don't demand love, you attract it. You don't prove your value, you embody it. That's the shift. And no, this isn't about ego. It's about ownership. When you see yourself as someone worthy of peace, growth, and alignment, you stop tolerating environments, people, and behaviors that contradict that. You walk away faster. You recover faster. You decide faster. Because you're not questioning your worth every time life gets. You're grounded. And from that grounded place, everything changes. Your energy stabilizes. Your patterns change. Your decisions stop coming from fear and start coming from vision. If you don't heal your self-image, you'll keep attracting chaos that reflects your inner confusion. But once you do, you become magnetic, not from strategy, but from authenticity. People feel it. Opportunities align. Your life simplifies. Because you're no longer fighting for worth. You've already claimed it. So ask yourself today, what version of me am I still trying to earn love for? What would shift if I started acting like someone who's already whole? What part of my self-image is finally ready to be rewritten, not from force, but from truth? In the next step, we'll talk about performance, and the subtle of trying to look powerful instead of being powerful. Because many people sabotage their transformation by turning it into a show. And that's where we cut the performance and start becoming. Let's move. You've raised your standards. You've curated your inputs. You've started healing your self-image. But there's one trap that can quietly undo all of it. And it's more seductive than failure. The trap of performance. Looking the part. Sounding wise. Posting quotes. Saying the right things at the right time, but still being ruled by the same patterns behind the curtain. That's not transformation. That's theater. And the world is full of performers. People who build the image of growth, but not the identity. They know what to say. They've read all the right books. They present perfectly online. But their actions, when no one is watching, tell the real story. Because true change doesn't need applause. It doesn't need documentation. It doesn't need to be seen. It just is. And the more you feel the need to prove you're evolving, the more you're showing that you don't fully believe it yet. Let that sink in. When you truly become someone new, you stop explaining your worth because it's expressed through how you move. You stop asking for validation because you've already claimed it from within. You stop performing for an audience because the only person who needs to be convinced is already convinced. That's real power. Let me ask you something bold. Are you documenting growth or replacing growth with documentation? Are you chasing the identity itself or just the aesthetic of becoming someone different? Because here's the truth. You can't perform your way into alignment. You can only live your way into it. And that starts by getting radically honest about what drives your actions. Are you building discipline because it matters to you or because it looks impressive? Are you being productive because it serves your vision? Or because you're afraid of being seen as lazy? Are you showing up online because you're aligned? Or because you don't feel valid without being witnessed? It's a fine line, and crossing it leads to burnout, inconsistency, and internal conflict. Because performance requires constant reinforcement. Performance exhausts you. Becoming sustains you. What does becoming look like? It looks like making decisions no one will ever see, and doing it anyway. Saying no when it would be easier to say yes. Waking up early even when no one's waiting for you. Closing your phone to protect your peace, not your productivity. Speaking to yourself with honor, even when you're behind. Becoming is quiet. It's not a costume you put on for the world. It's a skin you grow into slowly, steadily, authentically. And here's what you'll realize. The more you become, the less you need to prove. The more you are, the less you need to be seen. Your peace becomes private. Your progress becomes internal. Your power becomes self-sustaining. Drop the performance loop. Let's be real. The performance loop is addictive because the feedback is instant. You're so inspiring. You've changed so much. Keep going. You're doing great. And those words feel good for a moment. But if your identity is fueled by external applause, you'll always be vulnerable to silence. One slow week, one quiet day, one moment without recognition. And suddenly, you're questioning yourself all over again. That's not stability. That's dependency. So here's the shift. Stop measuring growth by how many people notice. Start measuring it by how many promises you keep to yourself. Because that's where real confidence comes from. Not from how you're perceived, from how you perform in private. You don't need to announce every step. You don't need to post every win. You don't need to prove that you're working. Your life will speak. Your patterns will speak. Your energy will speak. And when that happens, you'll notice something profound. People will start saying, "You're different. I can't explain it, but something's changed." And they won't be wrong. Because you're no longer trying to look like you've changed. You actually have. Let this step be your invitation to come home to yourself. To turn down the volume on the performance and turn up the integrity behind the scenes. To stop chasing aesthetics and start building substance. To stop feeding the ego and start fueling your evolution. Because becoming is the only thing that lasts. It's not affected by trends, comments, or likes. It's quiet, it's personal, and it's powerful. So ask yourself today, where am I still performing? What am I trying to prove, and to whom? What would shift if I stopped showing and started living? The final step will bring it all together. Because even after all this work, your new identity is still fragile until you anchor it. That's what we'll do next. Learn how to keep what you just built. Let's finish strong. You've done the deep work. You've shifted how you think, how you move, how you see yourself. But here's what most people miss. Transformation isn't a one-time breakthrough. It's a daily decision. How powerful the change feels right now. If you don't anchor it, the world will pull you back into your old identity. Not because you're weak, but because you're human. And life has a way of testing anything new. Your new standards? They'll be challenged. Your new voice? It'll be misunderstood. Your new boundaries? They'll trigger people who benefited from your silence. That's why anchoring is essential. It's the difference between a moment of clarity and a life of alignment. So how do you anchor this new version of yourself daily? Let's make it practical. 1. Build rituals that reflect the new you. Your actions must now affirm your identity. Not for others, for yourself. If you say you're disciplined, how does your morning prove it? If you say you respect yourself, how does your phone usage reflect that? If you say you've raised your standards, what are you now refusing to allow? You don't need a 20-step routine. You need a few small, non-negotiable habits that lock you into who you're becoming. That could mean starting your day in silence, not noise. Writing down 3 decisions that align with your highest self. Reflecting each night. Did I move today like the person I'm becoming? These rituals become anchors. And anchors hold steady, even in chaos. 2. Watch your self-talk like a hawk. Your identity isn't just what you do. It's what you repeat to yourself. That means every thought, every silent statement, every little phrase matters. I'm exhausted. I'm behind again. I always mess this up. These seem harmless, but they chip away at your foundation. From this point on, you correct that language in real time. You don't lie to yourself, but you lead your. Try this instead. I'm learning to manage my energy. I'm moving forward, even if it's slower today. I'm building consistency, and this moment counts. Speak like someone worth becoming, because your brain believes what you repeat. 3. Reclaim the moment after you slip. Yes, you'll slip. Yes, you'll forget. Yes, you'll have days where the old identity tries to pull you back. That doesn't mean you failed. That means you're in training. The key isn't perfection. It's recovery speed. When you miss a habit, don't spiral, reset. When you break a boundary, don't shame yourself, reestablish it. When you lose momentum, don't wait for Monday, recommit now. Winners don't avoid failure. They respond to it faster. Your identity isn't what happens once. It's what you do next. 4. Protect the environment that protects you. By now you know this. You can't anchor your new identity in a space that constantly contradicts it. That means cutting noise that reactivates old behaviors, reducing access to people who don't respect your new boundaries, making space, physically and mentally, to think, feel, and decide with clarity. If you build a new mindset in an old environment, your progress will always feel like a battle. So build a space that feels like you, even if it's just a corner, a playlist, a journal, a walk. Claim it. Return to it. Let it remind you who you are and who you're not anymore. 5. Repeat until it's normal. This might be the most important anchor of all. Repetition, not intensity. Not inspiration, just daily repetition of aligned choices. Because at first, your new identity will feel like a stretch, then a pattern, then a habit, and finally, a baseline. You won't have to try to be confident. You are confident. You won't have to force discipline. It's your default. You won't have to convince yourself you're worthy. You walk like someone who already knows. That's the reward of anchoring. Not just temporary change, but permanent identity shift. And once it's anchored, it becomes automatic, effortless, unshakable. Final alignment. Let's land this. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. And who you are is simply the sum of what you tolerate, practice, believe, and repeat. That means every single day is another vote for the life you say you want. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be consistent with who you've decided to become. So ask yourself one last time, what would today look like if I future I'm building? What's one small anchor I can install, starting now, that makes it real? Because your identity isn't built in big moments. Small, silent, private choices repeated until they echo loud. And if you've come this far, you already know what to do next. No more proving, no more pausing, no more waiting to feel ready. Just show up and anchor who you are again and again. This is how it becomes permanent. This is how you become undeniable. If this message grounded something real in you, hit subscribe. Not for motivation, but to keep this version of you alive. And if you're ready to go deeper, watch the next video now. Because what you just built is powerful, but what comes next will make it unstoppable.